It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
It's Another Side of Midnight. Walter Sterling live. I've got a phone number, and you and I can talk at any time. Here's the number, 800-848-9222. And here is the star of the History Channel, Robert Clotworthy. When you watch Ancient Aliens or The Curse of Oak Island Gold or The Curse of Civil War Gold or any cursed supreme metal, the voice behind it is Robert Clotworthy. I have so much respect for Robert because he's at the top of the food chain of voiceover talent, but he makes those shows work. You could not imagine a different voice telling the story, driving the story of Ancient Aliens. Robert Clotworthy, live. Welcome to the big show.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Walter. Really enjoy speaking with you. It's a pleasure.
18, 19 seasons of Ancient Aliens. How many is it?
Well, I was looking it up today. In our nomenclature with the Prometheus, the production company, it's 22. But actually in years, I think it's 18, 19.
The most impressive.
When we first started, they would do like 2 seasons in 1 year. So we're in our 22nd as far as we're concerned. It's been a long time.
And I bet you're not bored.
Not at all. Not at all. It's exciting every time I go into the studio.
And most of those episodes, there are revelations. You must look at the script and go, oh, my gosh, how did they find this out? This is unbelievable. And could you share with us this season 1 or 2 of the revelations that you've read about, that you've come across, that you look at the producers of Ancient Aliens and you go, you found out this? This is amazing. How about one of those 2 examples, Robert?
Here's something that I believe is going to be on a future episode, because I happened to speak to a friend of mine who worked at NASA, was a part of the Apollo program, and she told me a story that was told to her by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. I just happened to have a conversation with her, and I asked her about the astronauts, and she had mentioned that she'd been to many parties with astronauts during the missions, and she'd mentioned Neil Armstrong. I said, wait a minute, you were at Neil Armstrong's house? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, what happened? She goes, well, it was a pool party, so we were there, and she was actually in kind of the jacuzzi with them, and they started talking about their experience on the moon in Apollo 11, that when Neil Armstrong stepped off the lunar module and gave his speech about one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, as he stepped back because Buzz Aldrin was going to come off the LEM, he looked around and he thought he saw something moving on the moon. And when Buzz Aldrin stepped off the LEM, he saw it too. Now, I didn't know this. Apparently they had like a whiteboard that they brought with them with like a crayon. So if they needed to communicate, if for some reason the communications were down, they could talk to one another and write out something. And Buzz was about to say something, and Neil held up aside, don't say anything. He got on the secure channel, which was the flight engineers channel, and he spoke to Chris Kraft, who was one of the founders of Mission Control. And if you check, there are actually 2-minute gaps in the conversation between the astronauts and Mission Control. And they were describing what they were seeing. And they actually said they saw what looked like, they called them pods, and movement between the pods, and that they were essentially surrounded by these. And that Mission Control told them, ignore it, just continue with the mission. Now, she asked them, she said, wait a minute, are you guys, BSing me? And they said, no, this actually happened. So, and I asked her, I said, well, why do you think that happened? And she goes, well, if you were from another planet and you saw these creatures from Earth about to step foot for the first time on a body in outer space that was not their planet, you'd be interested. You'd be watching them from a distance. And she has a feeling that if we had continued with the moon missions, if we had established a base on the moon, they probably would have announced their presence and said hello. But after Apollo 17, we did not go back until just this week. So we'll see. And based on what I understand about Neil Armstrong, he was not a guy who was a prankster. He wouldn't joke about something like this. In fact, he rarely discussed the mission to the moon. He wouldn't even talk to his own son about it. To think that he was just kind of pulling somebody's leg, I doubt. But that I thought was fascinating. I think we're going to have that on a future episode where she tells that story.
Do you think that Neil Armstrong did not talk about it with his son or anybody because of seeing multiple things like that would have required long explanations that, frankly, he didn't have?
I would agree with you. And even on the mission to the moon, they actually saw a UFO on their way to the moon. That Buzz Aldrin was looking out the window and he said, "Hey, Neil, take a look at this." And they saw an object moving across space. And Neil said, "Oh, I think that's just the booster." And Buzz said, "Wait a minute. Didn't we already see the booster but going in a different direction?" And Neil Armstrong said, "Well, unfortunately, we can't go over there and take a look. We've got a mission to go on." So they had to let it go. But they saw something on their way to the moon as well. I think that Neil Armstrong was pretty shocked by the experience on the moon. And if he did actually see something moving up there watching him, yeah, I can see why he wouldn't want to discuss that.
Buzz has always been problematic for NASA.
Yeah.
Because he is who he is, and he's a brilliant man, but every now and then he says wacky things.
Yeah.
And like he was on the talk show, and they said, "Well, when you went to the moon," and he said, "Well, I didn't go to the moon. You saw an animation." He used to say things like this.
Yeah.
And he must be deeply conflicted between what he saw, what he was told to say, and what he was told he can't say. And then there's the problem of remembering stuff.
Yeah. And, she told me that Buzz was more of a prankster, but Neil Armstrong was the one that was driving the conversation. And she wasn't asking questions. She just sat there and listened to them discussing it and then asked what's going on. And this is a person I find incredibly credible. They've been awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, which was awarded to Charles Lindbergh, has 2 Purple Hearts. This is not a person that is timid and easily fooled. So, admittedly, she was, 25 at the time. These were a couple of astronauts. Maybe they were pulling her leg, but I don't think so.
No one has ever, like you said, no one has ever called Neil Armstrong a jokester. You and I are talking to Robert Clotworthy, who is the voice of Ancient Aliens. He's the voice of the History Channel with The Curse of Oak Island Gold and The Curse of Civil War Gold. Robert Clotworthy. Other revelations that we might be able to explore here about this season?
Well, first, I do want to acknowledge that this week we lost one of our favorite people in Ancient Aliens. Nick Pope passed away, who was a good friend, incredible contributor to the show, and he will be sorely missed. So I just want to acknowledge that. He was...
By the way, many people also miss him. I got a lot of notes the day he passed away this week, a lot of notes on Facebook, a lot of emails from Midnight Misfits. Yes, Nick Pope, his passing will be missed on the show and by your fans.
Fortunately, we did a lot of filming with Nick, so he's going to be well represented in this new season. So he may be gone, but we're still going to be able to learn from him because he was that kind of a man, and we all miss him.
I'm sorry that you lost your friend.
Yeah. But we will continue asking the questions. We will continue to seek the answers and be the spear, the point of the spear in trying to get the information out to everyone.
Yes. Did you hear the conversation we had last week with Congressman Matt Gaetz?
I did.
What did you think about his alien-human hybrid news? It was news that he had.
It's interesting because we touched upon that in one of our shows, but we had a different spin to it. But I think that what he was talking about, I can't doubt him. There's information out there. There's things that are happening that obviously we're not aware of, and in a strange way, it makes sense. If this was an attempt to kind of communicate in a way with these aliens, maybe there's a way that they communicate that's telepathically. You can't do it via a universal translator or something. That this is the way you do it, and the only way to do that is to have some kind of a genetic connection to them. It's kind of spooky, but well, I have a feeling he would know. He would know more than I would.
He says that it was a government official who debriefed him and other congressmen, and with that is the premise. You have to look at the premise. Okay, so they're creating alien human hybrids. Now, why would they do that? Oh, because they're saying because they need to be more effective in communicating with aliens, which means to me that there are aliens and that they've had trouble communicating with them, and they're going to go through the trouble of hybriding humans and aliens to enable us to talk to aliens. Oh, that means they're already here. There's brilliant circular reasoning there, Robert.
Yeah, I think that there's a high likelihood that they not only are here, but they are around us. We probably encounter them quite often. We just are not aware of it.
Now, in addition to you, the other celebrity friend I have is William B. Davis. And William B. Davis played Cancer Man on The X-Files. Did you watch
yes, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
All right, so he came to our wedding anniversary, and I got to have that relationship with him. And I said to him, so has anybody from, like, the CIA ever pulled you aside? He says, Walter, I was pulled aside by somebody in the CIA in Washington, and I was told, you have no idea how close you are. Okay, well, that was from Cancer Man. That's pretty good. Now, has anybody pulled you aside, Robert, and said you have no idea how close you are?
Yeah. It's happened many times from people that are deeply in the know, and they are quietly encouraging us to continue what it is we're doing. And in fact, I just put a phone call into to one of them today, as a matter of fact, because I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into his experiences and his knowledge. But quite a few people. I've had people say that some of these aliens they believe are actually, for lack of a better word, shapeshifters, that they will appear differently to different people. In other words, one of them could be in front of three of us. You would describe that person one way. I would describe them a different way. Another person would describe them a completely different way. One's male, one's female, one's black, one's white, one's tall, one's short, one's old, one's young.
Right.
You see a completely different thing, even though it's one entity.
And do you feel that government officials are influencing your producers as to what the point of view should be? One of the theories being that the more information the public has about aliens and about UFOs, the more accepting they will be when the truth is revealed.
That's an interesting question. I don't know directly. I have talked to the producers about that, and they get approached by different people quite often, and it's difficult to kind of weed through the all the stuff to find the real true people that are serious, because there's obviously there's a lot of cranks that will contact us.
A lot of cranks.
So I'm gonna poke the producers a little bit more on that to see what it is, because I have a feeling that probably in a very subtle way that is true.
Well, that's your homework for next week. I want you to poke those producers, find out what the truth is in terms of their influence from the government. Robert Clotworthy, voice of Ancient Aliens, Curse of Oak Island Old, thank you so much for being a friend of Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Networks.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari.
Confessions of a Retired NYPD Detective, starring Vic Ferrari on Another Side of Midnight.
Hey, Walter. On tonight's episode of Confessions of a Retired Detective, one former NYPD cop's free-swinging lifestyle landed him in trouble. When I was a rookie cop, most of the old-timers wouldn't talk to you, but there was a couple of guys that had like 2 or 3 years more than me with the police department, and they took pity on us. So when I would have a foot post, they would pull up, hey, kid, get in the car, you want to get something to eat. They were nice to us, but a lot of guys that weren't. And one of the cops, he looked just like John Belushi, and he acted like John Belushi, and he was so much fun, and it was the greatest thing when you would go to a cop racket or party. He was always doing something crazy. I remember one time, probably 6 months into my career, there was a party out in a parking lot, and the next thing I know, this guy is naked, sitting on top of a Harley Davidson, riding through the gravel, partying, carrying on. The guy was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, what wound up happening was, in the late 80s, he had an arrest on New Year's Eve, and his prisoner had something wrong with him, so he had to go to the hospital. So this cop takes his prisoner to the hospital, and before you know it, while the prisoner's being triaged, he's having drinks with the nurses and doctors, and he's partying with them. From there, he takes the prisoner to Bronx Central Booking, lodges him, but now he wants to keep the party going, and he must have had a bottle with him. He makes his way up to a district attorney's office, which all the offices are closed, somehow gets up on the 4th floor, has a little bit of a party by himself, and passes out underneath a desk. Well, the following morning at pre-arraignment, the district attorney is calling folders. He doesn't answer up. Where is this cop? They call the precinct. He's supposed to be down at Bronx Central Booking. Hey, he didn't sign out last night. Now there's a massive search for this cop. They call his partner at home. He goes, I don't know what happened to him. The last I saw him, he was at Bronx Central Booking. From there, emergency service and the K-9 unit show up at Bronx Criminal Court on New Year's Day. They've got the bloodhounds going. They're going through room by room by room. This cop wakes up underneath a desk with just a T-shirt on and a pair of uniform pants and decides he's going to go across the street on 161st Street to grab a cup of coffee. The next thing you know, he bumps into a bunch of cops that are searching for him. The duty captain immediately finds him hungover and unfit for duty. So back then what they would do is you wouldn't be fired, but they would place you on modified assignment or suspend you, and then they would send you up to the farm, which is the NYPD's rehab for alcoholics. Sadly, he resigned from the New York City Police Department and became a fireman. And I ran into him at a party one time, and I go, how do you like it over there? He goes, I'm not a real big fan of the firemen, he says, but the pay is better and they let me drink. I'm retired NYPD detective turned author Vic Ferrari for Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network.
Coachella. You know about Coachella. Your great-grandchildren have told you about Coachella, right? These are the Strokes. They're performing live this weekend along with the K-pop band at Coachella. What do you mean you don't know about Coachella? You've been to concerts. You've been to bad concerts. You've been to overpopulated concerts. But unlike most concerts, most outdoor concerts, and I know you've been to many of them. You were to the ones with Benny Goodman. I know who you are. This is different. Coachella is a multiple-day event. It is hundreds of thousands of people trying to think that they went to Woodstock. They didn't go to Woodstock, but they're going to Coachella. And by the way, anybody you know who says they went to Woodstock, unless you saw them there, they didn't go to Woodstock. It is one of the great myths of the generation. Yeah, man, like I was at Woodstock. No, you weren't. No, your mother would have never let you go. What? No. Even people who were supposed to have gone didn't go because the myth was very different than the reality. The reality of Woodstock was terrifying. But in my opinion, so is the reality of Coachella, which is where you could be right now. This was the first day of Coachella. K-pop band, The Strokes, Sophia, what's her name? Good bands. But here's the thing. Look at the live coverage on TV of Coachella going on right now, tomorrow, this weekend in California. Go look at it. And what will you see? You will see probably 100,000 people. I want you to look at two things. One is I want you to look at how roped off they are. This is the most polite, sane 100,000 concert goers you could ever imagine. They have a center aisle. No concert has a center aisle. They have a roped off, well-fenced center aisle. But then, and this is the tip, look way in the distance. And way in the distance is the Coachella that you and I, even if we went there, would never attend. Attended by the chairman of iHeart, the president of MTV. You will see white tents in the background. And you might think they're kitchens, supply tents. No. Part of the deal with Coachella is renting tents. Now, these are not the tents that you had at Camp Kanetawapak in the Poconos. These are tents with foundations, platforms, steel frames, and, important, air conditioning. They have air conditioning. And in addition to the tickets, which cost a fortune, you then can rent the tents. It is a whole business. It's a whole industry to rent tents at Coachella. And the tents at Coachella have air conditioning. But we're looking at like $10,000 a weekend, right? You're getting it now? In my opinion, these are cool bands from 15 years ago, like the Strokes, and then the next level right below the A band, Sophie Turner, right below the A bands that exist today. You'd hate it. Unless you got one of those $10,000 a weekend air-conditioned tents, you'd hate it. But now I have brought you up to date on Coachella. There's no other show on this station that will even mention Coachella. That. You think on KMOX, KDK, you're going to hear about Coachella? They couldn't even spell it. But now you can talk to your great-grandchildren about it and be cool. The best concert that I ever went to and the worst concert I ever went to, I'll share with you in just seconds, but I've got to ask, what was the worst concert you've ever been to? Because we're always very quick to share, I went to this great concert. Yeah, but what was the worst concert you ever went to? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. You get to go on live radio. You become the media. You want to hear more of that? 800-848-9222. I'll tell you the best concert I ever went to. And it's tricky because you tend to think of the big names or the big whatever, but sometimes the best concert is much more subtle than that, much smaller than that. However, I was a disc jockey. Before I was a talk show host and before I wore a suit, I was a top 40 disc jockey, as so many of us were, because only the good ones were top 40 disc jockeys. The rest of them don't understand how to get to the next thing, but I do. Top 40 disc jockey. And one of the early jobs of every top 40 disc jockey is to broadcast from a remote location. And I was assigned to broadcast from a county fair in New Jersey, the Warren County Fair. That's not even a county you've ever heard of in New Jersey. The Warren County Fair in the summer, in August. And there was a concert that day. One star. And we're standing there waiting for this star to show up. And because he was a star, he was an hour late. But we waited. And there was a flatbed truck that pulled up, and on the back of this flatbed truck at the Warren County Fair was a piano. And behind it was a trailer. And in the trailer was the star. And we knew he was going to come out whenever he was good and ready. And after another half hour of waiting at the Warren County Fair for this concert to start, out comes one skinny, drunk guy. And he gets on the back of the flatbed truck, and he sits at the upright piano, and he started to play. And when he started to play, I saw something I haven't seen before or since. I saw a man struck by Satan. He came to life. Small, quiet man, boom, came to life. Sat up straight, stared at, I don't know what he was seeing, but he saw something you and I didn't see. And he started to sing and playing that piano. Didn't miss a beat, didn't miss a note, didn't miss a key. And for 2 hours, he sang every hit he had. And that was Jerry Lee Lewis. And Jerry Lee Lewis for 2 hours was struck by Satan. I watched it. I'm like, that man helped create rock and roll and could play rock and roll in a way that no mortal could play. The man was clearly immortal. His spirit was immortal, and it was, to this day, the best concert I've ever seen. One guy, one piano, struck by Satan. I'll tell you about the worst concert I ever saw coming up, but I'd like to know, what was the worst concert you ever saw? Here's the number, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. You and I are heard on great radio stations like WGN in Chicagoland, WGN in Chicago. Who is this? Is this Mateus Boom Boom from Hollywood? Mateus Boom Boom in Hollywood. Welcome to Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Hi, Mateus.
Good morning. It's so nice to be with you today.
No one says that to me, so I'm very grateful for that, and I thank you for that. What was the worst concert you ever saw?
Well, I was involved in it as a theater manager. It was in the early 90s, and a band, the band at Nirvana was playing, and this was an early performance by Kurt Cobain. And it wasn't the music that was so horrible to me, because I'm an old theater guy, and we used the theater for old movies, and once in a while we had music acts in there. But Kurt Cobain was high as a kite, and he came downstairs. We were painting a room green to make it a green room. He jumped with his Vans shoes into the paint roller brush, rolled around on the ground like a crazy man, and then stomped the green paint up the wall with his shoes. Now, I about lost it. I didn't know that this guy was going to be some future god where people would want to make pilgrimages to everywhere he stopped like Jesus. I just was furious. So I yelled at him, called his manager. We called the promotion company and billed him, I don't know, $3,000 for the damage to the theater. And I was just yelling at him. I had no idea that that would happen. And I just associated the whole experience with it. Just turned me off to the concert. Not about performance, but just about the poor performance of a man completely out of his mind. And interestingly enough, the footprints are still there, and now people are making religious pilgrimages to go see it in the basement of the Crest Theater in Sacramento, California.
Well, he had Jesus' hair.
Oh, true, he did.
And did he perform? Did he do a concert, or did he just soil the facility?
No. Well, he after he soiled the facility, somebody dragged him up there upright enough to make it through his rote performance. But I was so fed up with him. I didn't want anything to do with him. Of course, people later have told me that he's this great genius. I always have that impression of him, and I can't see past it.
I agree with you. I never thought he was a genius. I never quite got the appeal of that. Yes, the song was good, but beyond the hit song, I never heard it. How many people were there? Was it a hit for your venue?
It was about 900 people, 800 people. It would have been about 1991.
The other time, I saw another performance like Jerry Lee Lewis. It was very similar in its impact because, again, what was it? It was one person. And I saw him at Madison Square Garden as part of the Atlantic Records 50th anniversary. And I went to see Debbie Gibson. But that was a very selfish motive. Then, but yes, I got to meet her. And then, but there was every Atlantic recording artist ever was at that concert. It was like a 3-day nonstop marathon of Atlantic Records performers. And they were all great. They were all wonderful. And one was like, whoa, this is different. One man stood, and The Who was, by the way, there with the pyrotechnics and everything. One man comes out, stands on stage, no pyrotechnics, no backup singers, no backup band, sung it a cappella, Stand By Me by Benny King. Benny King stood there, owned Madison Square Garden, did not have a band. He sang it a cappella, and nobody for 3 days could touch that performance. So it was like, okay, there's talent, and then there's this. And everybody sat there with their mouths hanging open and watched Benny King perform a miracle. That was the other great concert I saw. Now, Mateus, do you have a movie that we need to see, or do you have an update on Hollywood that we need to know?
Yeah, there's a romantic comedy, which I generally, look askance at a lot of romantic comedies. But aside from the heroic splashdown in the water of our terrific astronauts, who really made a great impression, I think, and got a lot of more people interested in space travel with their phenomenal circling of the moon. But the rest of the world is in great turmoil. People are worried with reason about where everything is going. So somehow a romantic comedy that is completely detached from reality seems just like the ticket. This is a story called You, Me, and Tuscany, and it's set in a sunny
That's the worst title I've ever heard.
I'm not making it up. You, Me, and Tuscany.
Oh, my God.
And this is where the ambitious but broke Anna, who is played by Halle Bailey. Now, Halle Bailey was in the Little Mermaid live-action movie. I don't know if you've forgotten that already. But yeah, she's also in The Color Purple, Last Holiday. Anyway, she's a bright young girl with a pretty face, and she has, gives you the puppy dog's eyes, and you do what she tells you when she gives you that look. You have daughters. Maybe that's happened to you. At any rate, she has been house sitting in Manhattan, and while she's been house sitting in Manhattan, she likes to dress up in the nice clothes of whoever owns the house until she's caught at it one day and she loses her gig. And she had wanted to go to Tuscany with her mother and study cooking, but Mom got sick. She eventually dies, but she's got tickets. So at loose ends, after meeting a guy in a Manhattan bar who says that he lives in Tuscany and his parents have a restaurant there and he's got a wonderful villa there, but he's never home, she decides to go and hang out in his villa since she knows he's not there. And so she sneaks into this villa. That's all great and fine until Grandma and Mom show up of the guy who she met in Manhattan. And she lies and says, hey, I'm his fiancé. Well, they all embrace her. They think it's wonderful. And she's living a lie. And you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it will. But before it does, she falls in love with this guy's adopted brother. So those are the complications. It's really sweet. Normally I just think this stuff is bunk, but in fact I laughed out loud several times and it was fun. It was true escapism. And of course Tuscany's pretty and everybody's rich and nobody's suffering. It's like idyllic parts of California in some spots. So I found it a great deal of fun. The name of the movie, even though the title is ridiculous, as you said, Walter, You, Me, and Tuscany, open today all over the USA, where you're listening to the Red Apple audio networks, and right where our home studio is at WABC Manhattan. It's playing in wonderful theaters like the AMC Empire on West 42nd Street and the AMC Kips Bay on 2nd Avenue.
And there's no star in it.
Well, the biggest star is Regine Page.
God bless you. Oh, that's a name?
Yeah, right. So there you go. If it sounds like I was sneezing. And Halle Bailey, not Halle Berry. That'd be the previous generation.
Yeah. Now, did you tell me to watch this Netflix thing, Something Really Bad Is Going to Happen? Did you tell me about this?
I did not.
All right, there's a new Netflix show called Something Really Bad. Wait, Something Really Bad Will Happen. That's its title.
Okay.
It's an 8-episode sort of scary thing, or sort of a spoof of a scary thing, starring very, very attractive people who spend a weekend in a cabin preparing for a wedding. And many scary things happen to them. The bloodline of the people about to get married, the husband and wife, the fiancés, they have to marry their soulmate or they will die the next day.
Okay.
And then, for some reason, then the bride wants to see if this is true and goes through the city records to find the birth certificate and death certificate and wedding certificates of her relatives. And son of a gun, wouldn't you know it, every one of them got married and then they died the next day. And it's an extraordinarily attractive cast. I realized, as with so many television shows and so many movies that are kind of scary, kind of horror, most of their problems would be solved if they would just turn on the lights. They appeared like, and then if they were tempted to turn on the lights, the power would go out, and the lights never came on. Now, I haven't seen the last 2 episodes, but I'm like, I'm wasting my time on this stupid thing. I know how
but you're drawn in.
I'm drawn in because the title is Something Really Bad is Going to Happen. That's the title.
Well, there you have it. I think it started March 26th, just very recently, and it's got 8 episodes.
There you
go.
go.
As far as I can see. But Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it, and I love her.
Oh, that's who it is. She plays the mom. She plays the mom dying of cancer. Always fun. That's who it is. Jeez, I should have known that. Now, is there a big hit so far this weekend in Hollywood? A big Hollywood hit so far? Is there something overwhelming like last weekend?
No. Last weekend is still pulling in at number 1, the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Just in the U.S. and Canada alone, it's $239 million. It's just insane. It's just insane how well that's done. Biggest grosser of the year.
That is insane. How do we find you on Facebook, Matthias?
Matthias Bombals Hollywood on Facebook, MATIAS BOMBAL''S, Hollywood like the city, on Facebook, Matthias Bombals Hollywood. Thanks so much, Walter.
Thank you very much, Matthias. Boom Boom in Hollywood with Walter Sterling. Now, coming up, we're going to have the latest on the research and discoveries about Tartaria. Tartaria is, to me, the most fascinating story today. And we're going to get updates on Tartaria from the great Michelle Gibson, a researcher, a serious person. This is her life. To bring you up to date, this is what Tartaria apparently is. In 1800, if you went into a public school in America, there'd be the map, China, Europe, Tartaria. Tartaria was about a third the size of China. And it had states, territories around the world. Now, what else did Tartaria have? It had dirigibles. It had wireless electricity. When you were a kid, there'd be houses that were built in the 1800s. And on top of those houses were lightning rods. Lightning rods. Every house in the 1800s, 1700s had lightning rods. Has lightning gone away? No. Why aren't houses built with lightning rods today? Because they weren't lightning rods. They were free electricity receivers. Those copper sticks on top of Victorian houses, they received free electricity. That's the basis of Michelle Gibson's work. She says that, do you understand what this was? There were dirigibles. There was wireless electricity. Fireplaces did not necessarily generate heat. They weren't necessarily for heat. And those lightning rods, that's how they received electricity, not from wires. The research she has done is amazing. And then there's part 2. why did all of that information get erased? And when did it get erased? And she says that it got erased much more recently than we think. And I asked her, who erased it? And she has that. Michelle Gibson coming up. We'll get information from her. Plus, we have a conversation with a man whose father was in the CIA. And he quit the CIA. His father quit the CIA because he was so appalled and so disgusted with what he saw, he had to leave it. He had to get out of it. And then we have an update from another perspective again on UFOs and aliens and what we can expect when there's disclosure, when there's finally official government disclosure of UFOs and aliens and the impact it'll have on our culture and our society and our science. All of that's coming up for you. It is 50 minutes past the hour, 50 minutes past the hour. Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Networks.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
All right, 52 past the hour with Walter Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight. Phone number, ready? 800-848-9222. John on Long Island, welcome to the Giant Radio Show, the biggest all-night show in American radio. Hi.
I'm so honored, Walter. Thank you very much.
John, I knew you would feel that way. Yes, sir.
So I just had to call when you said about Jerry Lee being your favorite concert, because I used to live in Memphis, and I was renovating a building there called Hernando's Hideaway, which was Jerry Lee's hangout. You know, that was there were other performers there also, but there was really like Jerry Lee's spot. So one of his kids is Jason D. Williams. You're familiar with Jason D. Williams?
No, bring us up to date. That sounds pretty interesting. How many kids do you think he had? Does he know? Did he know?
I know. He probably can't know.
No, he probably didn't know.
Unfortunately, I share the same last name as him, Lewis, but, so I was always drawn to him. But I thought it was pretty neat that the Madman himself was the longest surviving one of all them crew back then. Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley.
Yeah, those were bad odds, right? I would not have pegged him to be the longest living one.
But when I met him, he was, very, very old and not really doing much rock and roll. But his son, Jason D. Williams, the movie they made about Jerry Lee Lewis with. Yes. What's his name there? And so Jason D. Williams is the hands. Whenever you see the close-up of the hands playing the piano, that's who's doing that. It's Jason.
That's pretty cool.
He just does the same kind of performance as his father. I mean, he rocks on the piano. He's jumping up and down on it, breaks the thing into pieces, and he's drinking up there. He goes crazy. He rode a Harley up onto the stage, and so because I was building this restaurant nightclub, Hernando's Hideaway, where his father was famed to always hang out, I got close with Jason D. and I went over to his house and hung out with him for a little while, and I met the old man. And but anyway, at this cause, his wife, Jason D's wife, does not want him to drink, but he would drink anyway, and so he drank too much on stage. And she didn't want him to ride the motorcycle back home. So she said, hey, do you know how to ride? I said, of course I know how to ride. And I got to ride this guy's Harley through Memphis back to his house. I was very honored. That was pretty cool.
A good life you've had, my friend. Did you grow up in Memphis?
I did not. I grew up in New York, and I was just hired by there's a friend of mine who was a restaurant owner. And he teamed up with this country music singer from Texas, Dale Watson. And they decided they were going to buy Hernando's Hideaway and bring it back to its old glory. It's actually just a couple blocks from Graceland. I used to drive past Graceland every day.
Got it. Got it.
And,
Well,
yeah.
John, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you calling. Thank you very much for the call. Thank you. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. See, I keep pushing this button.
On WABC, the biggest all-night show on American radio.
The ghost of Charlie Greer did not want me to push the button.
On WABC, the biggest all-night show on American radio.
All right, now let's see. Coming up, a man whose father was in the CIA, and he walked out on the CIA and looked at his son and he said, I'm not going to tell you everything, but everything I have learned scares me so much. It is so wacky. I have to quit. He had to quit. And then you and I are going to talk to another amazing expert, Matt Vaughn, and then Chris Milligan. Chris Milligan has the latest on the UFOs and the aliens and what to expect when that information is released. And then Michelle Gibson will explain why is it that in town after town, throughout America, throughout North America, there are these magnificent cathedrals, government buildings, train stations that have 10-foot-high archways to enter and 20-foot-high archways around the building, elaborate cement bas-reliefs, beautiful steeples, magnificent artwork built in the 1850s, surrounded by, at the time, dirt roads. The workmen had to come there on horses and carts pulled by horses. How did they build those cathedrals in 1850 when they had dirt roads, no motorized vehicles? How did they do that? And then today, we build garbage. Think about the last time you saw a breathtaking, beautiful building built where you live. When was the last time? They're very excited when they fill in potholes. That's their achievement. That's the architectural achievement. Something happened. Something happened that it became acceptable for government buildings to be the ugliest buildings instead of the most magnificent. Even the churches that used to be the most magnificent buildings in town, in the state, now they're boring, bland, scary, but they're not awe-inspiring to look at. You don't look at a church that's being built today and go, oh, my God, that's magnificent. How did they build it? Nobody says about anything being built today, how did they build that? Look at the art no, that's all gone. Why is it all gone? And who said it should be all gone? The libraries, the Carnegie libraries, built in the 1850s, 1880s, 1900s, those are still the most beautiful libraries in America. They're 100 years old. We can't do better? Is there a reason we're not doing better? And that will all be revealed with Michelle Gibson, a great guest, a researcher who actually, she doesn't have radio facts, she has actual facts. It's completely different. And you and I can talk at any time. And the phone number is 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. We have a theme. And the theme, we have two themes. One, what's going to happen when our president reveals the secrets of the UFOs and the aliens and the worst concert you've ever been to? Walter Sterling, Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling, 77 WABC. This is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Worst concert you ever attended. Worst concert. Right now, there are thousands of people at Coachella. Yes, you've heard about Coachella. That's a concert that you have not gone to. But you feel the pull, that it's a cultural pop station. And they have K-pop bands and bands like The Strokes and Sophia, what's her name? All the cool acts are at Coachella right now. But I urge you, when you look at the live stream from Coachella, look at the crowd and you'll go, what's wrong with them? They're very polite. There doesn't seem to have been any beer brought in or any ganja. And they're all in precise rows like sardines, roped off, fenced in. Doesn't look like any concert you'd want to go to, and it's not, because it's all the people who couldn't go to cool things when they were kids, now have too much money, and they go to Coachella to appear to be cool. But here's the trick. Look at the skyline. Look at the skyline of the crowd at Coachella on the live stream on your overpriced cable. You will see white structures way in the back over there. And over there. And those are tents. Those are pristine, beautiful, rented tents. About $10,000 for the weekend, maybe more depending on their size. They all are air-conditioned. They all have platforms, probably have toilets. I bet you the expensive ones have built-in toilets. And in order to get one of those, you need to have the title of CEO. You need to have the President of Entertainment title. President of Entertainment, to get one of those spectacular. And those are the people who come back from Coachella, the ones who stayed in the rented tents, who will tell you it was just the best thing. It was so liberating to hear all of this great new music. Liar. Anybody over the age of 23 who tells you, oh, I love to hear new music, is lying. Nobody over the age of 23 likes to hear new music. Yeah, I'm interested in music discovery. Shut up. No, you're not. I am interested in hearing the incredible information about a guy whose father was in the CIA and walked away from it, and why he walked away from it. Matt Vaughn. Walter Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight with the incredible Matt Vaughn. Matt Vaughn is exactly who you and I want to talk to, because there are really only two or three things that we want to talk about besides sex, and he is an expert in them. Matt Vaughn, we're looking at the precipice. We're at the edge of the volcano, I think, where a president of the United States, a real executive of the United States, might start revealing to us the truth about UFOs and aliens. Do you think we're at that pregnant moment in history?
100%. And you've said it perfectly, I believe.
Why do you believe that?
One reason I believe it is because I believe we've already had soft disclosure because I don't know if you're familiar with the documentary, The Age of Disclosure. You had a Secretary of State Rubio on that documentary. And also you've recently had Obama, who kind of sort of disclosed that there were aliens. So I think we have had, and we've had enough government officials disclose it. Speaking of these Congress people who are talking about it in the press recently. So I think we've had a soft disclosure, and the next step would be the president officially disclosing it.
What do you think will happen that day? What do you think the population of the United States of America, how will they react?
I don't think much will happen. I think people are so stressed and jaded. I do not think we'll have mass hysteria or anything of that nature.
Why do you think it hasn't happened until now?
I would imagine because of the implications, especially regarding the technology behind the UFOs, specifically the advanced propulsion technology behind it. And as I like to say, the little green men did not get here with gasoline. They got here with some sort of free energy device. And I think that is one of the main reasons we have not had disclosure, because that technology would radically alter our economic system.
Do you think they're going to reveal technology UFOs, or do you think we're going to meet an alien?
I don't think we're going to have an alien come out for a press conference. I would imagine that would be many years down the line. I think it's going to be a slow roll disclosure. First, just an acknowledgement that, yes, there have been visitations, something vague. So I do not think it's going to be some sort of dramatic disclosure, but I do think the president will, that would be my guess, the president will disclose something this year. And it would be, to me, my mind, it's going to be a slow roll of the technology, then an alien creature on down the line.
Matt Vaughn, an expert on UFOs, an expert on UFO files. What other announcements, revelations can we expect in the near future?
Well, let's just start with already what we've gotten. We've gotten Congress people talking about alien human hybrid breeding programs.
Oh, yeah. Wait. You're right, Matt. Hold on a second. Yes. We had on Congressman Matt, I got to edit this. Matt Gaetz. We had on, because he spells his name funny. I never get it right. Matt Gaetz, U.S. Congressman, who said, I was updated. I was given a briefing that said the government is conducting a human-alien hybrid experiment to create human-alien hybrids, quote, so we can communicate more effectively with other aliens. I'm like, well, the only reason we're going through that trouble is because we know there are other aliens. We've met other aliens and have had communications problems. Therefore, I believe that as much as the revelation that we're trying to create hybrids, that was an admission they're here.
Right. And I don't know what more is more shocking than that. Perhaps you have a breakaway civilization sort of revelations, or perhaps just the full extent of how much involvement there's been over the history of Earth.
What I found shocking is that after that revelation, Matt Gaetz did not follow up. The people who were with him who were told about this didn't say, whoa, could we please have more investigations and committee hearings, and could we get more information? There was none of that.
Right. And I listened to that interview on your show, and I think one thing I like to look at is the psychological aspect of disclosure. And I am a psychotherapist in my day job. So I think what we're dealing with here is facts and information are so strange that they are beyond belief. So how does one even ask a follow-up question to that? You're going to be in a state of shock, a state of disbelief.
Matt Vaughn, expert on UFOs, experts on psychological impact. I'm very grateful for you to be on the Red Apple Audio Networks with Walter Sterling. And now that I know that you're a psychotherapist, after the call, let's you and I talk about my mom. Walter Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, thank you very much.
On WABC, the biggest all-night show on American radio.
Dave from Pittsburgh, welcome to Another Side of Midnight at 800-848-9222. Dave, welcome to the Giant Radio Show.
Thank you, Walter. Very good. This is for your audience to start. I'll be brief. I am in my briefs, and I'm sitting here. I just woke up. Are you in Florida, Walter, or are you in New York, or just where are you? Where are you broadcasting from tonight? That's an interesting question, isn't it? It's none of my business, I guess. Hey, you talked about the Carnegie Libraries a little earlier. Is Trump going to replace every item in the Carnegie Library systems with his propaganda?
Did you get rid of him?
I should not exist, not in a free country like America. Walter, what is the problem?
Which problem would you like to explore, Dave? Would you like to explore the problems with you?
Operating officer.
Dave, you've asked
of my corporation, Fisher Co-op.
Yeah.
The solar energy movement has gained too much momentum for chumps like Trump to even think about ruining it for the rest of the world. The solar energy movement is for real in the world and not in America right now as much.
Dave, thank you for the call. Thank you very much for the call. Now, I would have let him go on because it was pretty entertaining, but the fact is that he didn't want any answers because I had questions for him. Questions for him included, were you bitten by your dog recently? Which meds were you on that you clearly are no longer on? Have you ever had sex with a woman? Do other parents keep their children away from you? There are many questions to have asked him, but he wouldn't let me ask any questions. My phone number is 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. You and I are talking about some very important things. What do you think's going to happen when our president does reveal information about the UFOs and about whether or not there are aliens here? What do you think's going to happen? My theory is, my radio fact is, that our government, all governments, if it is revealed that there are aliens among us, will become less powerful because there will be a new power. And I also believe that for the past, I don't know, since Star Trek, going through to Steven Spielberg and maybe to the X-Files and going to Ancient Aliens, that Hollywood has been profoundly either influenced or directed by government agencies that know whether or not they're UFOs, that know whether or not there are aliens, and they have been indoctrinating us in a conspiratorial way as to whether or not this is good or bad, that we are being conditioned to go, oh, well, this is a good thing, or it's a normal thing, or it's a natural thing. But mass media is being used to condition us, as it often is. You want to hear something cool? I love this thing. I gotta play this for you because, again, it's Coachella weekend and we're very, very involved musically. Hold on, I gotta pull this up. Radio commercial. There have been many industries that have been launched from scratch just on radio, just with radio advertising. Like, for example, Procter & Gamble was, there was no TV when Procter & Gamble was launched. Now, here, listen to this. This was, oh, don't give me a hard time with this. Why is it I always get a hard time? That page isn't available? What do you mean that page isn't available? It's available. Here, listen to it. Here we go. It's still not available. If I was a good talk show host, if I was a real talk show host, I'd prepare all this, but it just seems exhausting. One more shot. We'll try one more shot here. It's worth it. You'll love it.
Fall into the gap now, get to the gap. We got 4 tons of Levi's waiting for you. At the gap now, fall into the gap. It's the world's greatest selection. It's true. At the gap now, fall into the gap. Whatever your shape, sex, or size, we got your favorite Levi's jeans. At the gap now, shoot about the gap, fall into the gap.
That was the first commercial for the Gap. That was a radio commercial. Didn't appear anyplace else. Just on the radio in Chicagoland, on the top 40 stations in Chicagoland. That built that business. And my opinion is that ever since the Gap has had up and down sales, year after year they go up and down and up. And I'm like, if they would just put that commercial back on the air, the Gap would do spectacularly well. They would do so much better. Just play that commercial. Stop wasting money on TV.
Sterling every damn night. Every damn night. We got 3 hours of Sterling waiting for you. Every damn night. Ooh. Every damn night. It's the world's greatest show. It's true. Sterling every damn night. Cuba every damn night. Every damn night. Whatever your shape, sex, or creed, Walter's got just what you need every damn night. Cuba every damn night. Sterling every damn night.
Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
All right, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight, and a opportunity for you to become the media. Yes, you actually can become the media at 800-848-9222. Just like Tom in New Jersey, welcome to Another Side of Midnight, Tom.
Hey, how are you this evening?
Well, better now that you're here.
Okay. Well, actually, when I first called, I only had one thing I wanted to say, but while I was on hold, I heard a Gap commercial that you were talking about, and I remember, do you remember the Levi's commercial? It was so cool.
There were many. What year do you think it was?
Well, I'm 62 now, and I remember this from when I was a teenager. Oh, so there were a lot of them.
I don't remember.
All right. I remember part of it. Part of it when I think a guy had a pair of Levi's on and he was shooting himself into space, something like that.
Wow, that may have been a drug dream.
No, it was an actual commercial.
No, it may have been a drug dream of yours.
No.
All right.
No.
I don't remember it. I'm sorry, I don't. Now, you wanted to call about something else, too. What was the other thing? What was the other thing?
The other thing is, wow, I can't believe you said a drug dream. I'm telling you, if you look at those old commercials, you'll see it.
I believe you. It's
see
okay.
It's not a drug dream.
I believe you. You're anonymous. Don't worry. Go ahead.
All right. But anyway, the other thing is I wanted to say, I said it before, that all races of all different aliens have been here doing their business on Earth long before man has stepped foot on it. And if people could actually understand that, it would get rid of all the hoopla, you know? So.
Why do you think that's true?
Oh, I don't think it. I know it. And I think you know it, too. I think you know it, too. You're a smart man. There's really no questioning this.
But if I was asked, how do I know? My answer would be, I feel it, but I can't show you a shred of evidence.
It's just a fact, and you know it as well as I do.
But I appreciate your call. And in New Jersey, where do you get your pizza?
Fontana's, Pizza Master.
Yeah, what town is that in?
Bayonne.
Yes, I would say that's the epicenter of great pizza in New Jersey, and I thank you for the call, Tom. Thank you very much calling at 800-848-9222. Now I'm going to give you a gift. You don't have to be in New Jersey to appreciate and accept this gift, but like the law of attraction works in several steps, but the last step, and this is where most people screw up, is you have to accept the gift. When the gift arrives, most people are so obsessed with trying to get it and manifest it and write it down and throw pieces of paper into magical fires and pray that when the gift does arrive, which may not be in the form that you wanted it, they don't accept it. And then they don't get any more gifts. That's the law of attraction. I, Walter Sterling, at 27 past the hour on the Red Apple Audio Networks, on giant radio stations like KDKA, KMOX, WGN, WABC, and those are just a handful of them. You have to accept the gift. Here's the gift. Remember this, J-U-M-O. Remember that, J-U-M-O. I want you to go on TikTok, and I want you to search J-U-M-O. Now, I'm going to warn you, you can look at this video in front of your kids, your employer, your spouse, your lover, or all of the above. And it's okay. But you will thank me. Gentlemen, I swear, you will thank me. Everything that a modern man dreams of is synthesized into one video. One freaking set of videos. J-U-M-O. TikTok. Then there's something I want in return, because I will have earned something in return. You ready? I want a note an email, walter.sterling@WABC.radio, walter.sterling@WABC.radio. I just want a subject line that says, thank you, because I need to be thanked. I have 3 daughters. Do you think I'm ever thanked? No. I have 2 male cats. Am I ever thanked? No. I need to be thanked. And I believe after you look at JUMO on TikTok, you will thank me. You will want to thank me. You will be inspired to thank me. I want that thank you note. Walter.Sterling@WABC.radio. I expect to be thanked. It's a live line, and you get to be the media at 800-848-9222, like Brian in Florida. Welcome to the Red Apple Audio Networks. Brian, welcome to the big show. You're on the biggest all-night show in American radio. Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
Well, I'm excited now that you're here and that I've distracted you from television. You need to turn off your radio. Since 1957, we have suggested you turn off your radio. Where'd he go? What happened to him? Was he not managed? Was he not encouraged? The 7-second delay was invented in 1957. And I'll tell you why in just a second, because, it's the nature of the things that I do. It's 30 minutes past the hour, and we welcome WGN in Chicago. WGN in Chicago, a great affiliate. We have great affiliates across the country, all of them very excited. They were debating whether or not to take the live stream of Coachella from California or to, look at that. It's in Indio, California, at the Empire Polo Club in Indio, California. And this year they have Carol G. I know that's one of your favorites. Sabrina Carpenter, another one of your favorites, is performing The Strokes, Postmodern, and Justin Bieber. What? Yeah, Justin Bieber is performing at Coachella. Keep pouring that coffee in him, and I'll bet you he'll do a spectacular job. The worst concert you ever attended. That would be Coachella. For you. Because you'd have to lie. You'd have to say, yes, I'm very interested in new music. No one over the age of 23 is interested in new music. Just, they're not. They say they are to be cool and hip, but they're not. No, nobody is. Once you're over the age of 23, you don't want any new music. You want the songs you like, the familiar songs. I'm not the first one to realize this. You know who's the first one to realize this? There were the guy who invented Top 40 Radio, Todd Stores. He'd go to the same diner at the end of every day, and he noticed that the waitresses, when they were closing up, it was the end of the day, it was after dinner, they were closing up, and they to make the jukeboxes work while they were cleaning, they had to put in their own money. They put in their own money. And Todd noticed that they were putting in their own money on the same songs they had been hearing all day. They were putting in the same 10 or 20 songs over and over and over again, the hits, the familiar songs, and that was the dirt origin, the origin story of Top 40 Radio. The jukebox in Omaha. It was in Omaha. All right, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. And that's what I was supposed to do. Yes, oh my gosh, he's on hold. Jeez. Chris Milligan. Chris Milligan is on hold with an incredible story about his dad who quit the CIA. Chris Milligan. Chris Milligan on Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. This man has the stories. He knows the secrets. He's aware of everything from skull and bones to the rest of it. Now, Chris, your dad left the CIA in 1959, and he didn't like what he saw. What did your dad tell you about Vietnam and drugs as well as secret societies? What did he tell you?
Well, he first off, he left him soft in 57, hard in 59, and he took me into a room in 1969 with a professor from Vanderbilt, and the words out of his mouth was, the Vietnam War is about drugs. There's these secret societies behind it, and I'm a 19, almost 20-year-old kid, and I'm thinking, okay, Dad's talking about the mafia. And then he says, and communism's all a sham. These same secret societies are behind it all. It's all a big game, which completely blew me away. I'd been stuffed under the desk because the Ruskies were going to bomb us, and so that just didn't compute. And I kind of thought my daddy was nuts. And then they started telling me all about my dad's intelligence career, which had never been mentioned before in the house. And he had started off as an 18-year-old kid as an exchange student to China in the 30s.
And after he told you this about Vietnam and drugs, tell me a little bit more about what you learned. What kind of drugs? Why was it tied up with drugs? How did that get to be an issue?
Well, it's because, he just mentioned secret societies. He didn't mention a name, and it took me a while to figure out that basically one of the main ones he was talking about was Skull and Bones. And if you look at Skull and Bones, it was founded by William Huntington Russell and Alonzo Taft. And William Huntington Russell, he was the scion of a family company called Russell and Company, which was the third largest opium smuggler in the world at the time and the largest in America. And the drugs, why? Because when they're illegal, you're selling plants sometimes for more than gold, and it creates a huge amount of money, which then allows you to corrupt institutions and to corrupt people.
How much are we talking about with the heroin? Is that the prime economic driver of the Vietnam War? And I'm so naive about this. I've never even smoked grass. Is heroin, is that drug grown in Vietnam?
Well, it was the Golden Triangle, okay, that was up Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Chinese border area, okay, up in the mountains, okay, because you can do whatever you want in the mountains until somebody with a gun comes up there and says, hey, don't do that. And, it's quite a long story, but, opium became one of the largest commodities on the planet in the 1800s and has rarely left it. Now, today, they're getting a lot of the people that, would normally be using heroin. They're using, what's that new one?
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl, yes, fentanyl, and these secret societies, especially Skull and Bones, really got their hooks into our government during the Spanish-American War.
All right, so wait, but I don't want to go back to the Spanish-American War. Let's go to today with Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones, tell us how that originates and how does it impact me today?
Well, how does it affect us today? These secret societies are able to, what I've found out through my research is we have a secret societal level. Your next solid level is the sovereign countries. And then in between the secret societal level and the sovereign countries, you have intelligence agencies, criminal gangs, religious organizations, fraternal organizations that are able to use their members from the secret societal level to get into the sovereign countries, to get us into war, get us into debt, all kinds of situations. Look what's going on today.
Chris Milligan, are you talking about the Bush family? They were all in Skull and Bones. You talking about them and John Kerry? Were they all in the Skull and Bones? Is that how that starts?
That's yes. That's part of it. We're going through a time here of a paradigm shift where things are starting to change. And there's a very good book called Generations, History of America's Future. There's another one called Fourth Turning that talks about this time. And one thing the secret societies try and do is to make sure that they go through this paradigm shift and land on their feet. And so we've got a real mess here in the world today. And the secret societies, one thing that they have used is this honey trap method. Okay, where you have between the criminal gangs and the intelligence agencies, they work together to use blackmail to control the situation. So yeah. I mean,
how do they? Wait. Tell me how they do that, because these are really rich people who could get laid no problem. How do they get honey trapped?
Well, here's how a honey trap operates. First off, you have to have some bait. Young boys, young girls, whatever. Okay. Then you need to have a room that's wired. Okay. And then you need to have a manager. Okay, and the manager is going to want security, so it's quite a wild operation. They've been going on for quite a while. Okay, and once they get somebody trapped in there, there's not. They have to do what they say, and these same people that worked up the honey traps. The thing that we found, I put out a book called One Nation Under Blackmail by Whitney Webb. And in volume 2 of that, they show how the same people that were setting up these honey traps, basically they said, wait a minute, all we have to do now is to hack into somebody's cell phone, okay? Because if they can hack into somebody's cell phone, they have a pretty good idea of what that person wants to do, okay? So it's an insidious situation that we have found ourselves in, and here's how the secret societies run the world. It's a leviathan of 3 levels. The top level is mining metal and money. Okay, I had an author that could affect that. I got his book out called Calling All Angels. He was run over by a hit-and-run lorry in London 7 days after the book came out. The next level is drugs, guns, and oil. It's a very active level. It's where they create a lot of money to corrupt things. It was actually people from Skull and Bones that sent Drake to Pennsylvania to do the first oil well. And then where this meets the road is it's media. They've got to control the media, the narrative, and then it's movies/music because they've got to control the culture. It'll bite them. And then the very last one is quote-unquote magic, the ability to hoodwink us, and their preponderance on using mass trauma rituals to keep us in line, such as the Kennedy assassination and 9/11. At their core, they are mass trauma rituals directed against American people, because the main thing that they're trying to stop is government of and by and for the people. They would rather have an authoritarian type government, and so
Chris Milligan,
kind of where we find ourselves today.
Chris Milligan, how successful are they with all these initiatives at controlling us? How successful are they, or how far away are they?
They've generally been, about 80% successful. I mean, we're pretty stiff-necked people, and so and not everybody is susceptible to their propaganda, but they've been fairly successful. Okay, they've taken our people into quite a bit of wars. I mean, you follow the American military, and you find that where they're going is where the drug trade is, like in Vietnam. Okay, you had the Golden Triangle, and then we went into the Balkans, and if you look at literature about the drug trade, generally the Balkans were anywhere from number 3 to 6 in producing of opium because, again, they're a mountainous area. And then we went to Afghanistan and controlled the drug trade there for a while. But, then... Yeah, the drug trade, they also move it around because, again, at the top level of these secret societies, they don't really care about the sovereign countries, and they will bust out their own country, okay, if it behooves them to continue the secret societal goals, their goals that they're looking to attain, which is, one world government, if you want to call it that, or a technate of 3 basic government forms on the planet.
All right, Chris Milligan, explaining conspiracies, skull and bones, the real society, who controls our world. Thank you very, very much, Chris, for being on Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Thank you.
Hey, Walter Sterling, this is your cousin Breezy. Listen, I think that it's time that you took a little break, so I'm going to play a song that I actually introduced years ago right here on WABC Radio. So, Walter, hit the trail, and I'll take care of business.
Just have to come on over, baby. Baby, you can't go wrong. We ain't faking. Oh, lot of shaking going on. When I say come on over, baby, we got chicken in the corner. Woo, huh? Come on over, baby. Really got the bull by the horn. We ain't faking. Oh, lot of shaking going on. Shake it. I said shake it, baby, shake it. I said shake it, baby, shake it. I said shake it, baby, shake it. Come on over. Oh, a lot of shaking going on. Oh, let's go. You can shake it one time for me. Has to come over, baby. Oh, Lord, shake it going on. Now let's get real low one time now. Shake it, baby, shake it. All you gotta do, honey, is kind of stand in one spot. Wiggle around just a little bit. That's what you got. Yeah. Baby, oh, Lord, shake it going on. Now let's go one time.
Is it possible that Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including the giant affiliate WABC? Ancient astronaut theorists can't stop laughing. Is it possible that Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including giant affiliate WABC? Ancient astronaut theorists say they can't stop laughing.
It's insulting to be insulted by the voice of ancient aliens. The great Robert Clotworthy tells us stories, gives us exclusives, shares with us that you do not hear on Ancient Aliens. You do not hear on any other shows because He is the font. He is the source of all key things relative to ancient aliens. Ancient aliens. One of the great conspiracies of our time is the silence of men, the silence of fathers. Pay attention. When you go to a playground and you see toddlers, 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds playing in the playground, notice what I'm about to mention. Watch the fathers playing with their kids. Watch the fathers in those playgrounds. Do the fathers sit around with other fathers and gossip? Are they on their phones? They are not. The fathers in the playgrounds never take their eyes off of their kids. Never. Because they're fathers. You will see the moms over there in the far part of the playground talking to other moms or on their phones, not watching their kids. There are some annoying fathers who insist on getting on the playground equipment with their children, even though the sign says nobody over the age of 12 on this. But they're so involved with their kids that they want to be good dads, and they get up on the playground equipment. I have never seen a mother get up on the playground equipment. Have you? No. They're talking to other moms. If a dad tries to talk to other dads, those conversations are shut down very quickly. This is the result of fathers and men being silenced. And I'll share more about that with you, coming up in just seconds. I'm Walter Sterling. This is Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Networks.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
At 800-848-9222, it's a live line, 800-848-9222. Walter Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks. Another Side of Midnight with Silas on Staten Island. Welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that with guys like Swalwell who fall for these women who act like they want to help him and, fall in love with him. Well, he's dumb enough to think that the woman was actually in love with him and cared about, But
have you ever made that mistake, Silas? Have you ever done that? Have you ever fallen for a woman who was conning you?
No, I'm not that stupid. I mean, I'm not that good-looking guy that women are falling all over. So why would I all of a sudden think, oh, gee, the most beautiful woman in the place is now falling for me? And even if you did have a honeypot, why would you be so dumb to give them the correct information? Give them false information. That's all. If somebody's from Russia or something or China, give them false information. Why on earth would you actually tell them the truth? You see that stuff in James Bond or something. It's ridiculous. And you also brought up a thing. You were just talking about the fathers who watch the kids. I've been a babysitter all my life, taking care of my nieces, nephews, and then a chaperone. And you're absolutely right. I never took my eyes off the kids.
Never.
And if I talk with somebody, I had, like little Brittany, I had her on my shoulders while I was talking. But I never took my eyes off the kids. I never had a kid get hurt, get lost. But you're right. I mean, I didn't have phones back then, but I never took my eyes off them.
But moms would. Moms would.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that.
Yeah.
And I never even thought about it until you just brought it up.
Well,
I
that's
realized
because,
that,
Silas, that's because
for the last 30 years I've been that way.
Exactly. That's
Before
I brought it up because I'm a professional host. Silas, thank you very much for the call, and mostly thank you for listening to Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Michael, welcome to the Giant Network Radio Show at 800-848-9222. Hi, Michael.
Hey, you've got a great series of shows going. I've been listening to you for weeks. In any event, I was very disappointed in this last guy, this so-called CIA revelations thing. I'm curious if this guy got either he might have been bitten by a dog, like you say, or perhaps he got special permission to make a call from the institution where he is. It was nothing but some sort of crazy screed that he had. It didn't make any sense, but I appreciate him and love to get in contact with him because I want to grow a small farm, and I think I could contact him for the manure that I need to fertilize the farm, and I'd like to get your opinion.
Well, my opinion, my friend, is that you're spending way too much time on this, and I've given you a homework assignment. Have you done your homework assignment?
But I forgot the last part of your email address.
Okay, here you go. It's walter.sterling@wabcradio.com. wabcradio.com. And I've told you the assignment. I hope you do it. I look forward to hearing from you more and more in the future. Thanks very much for calling. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Now, Tony and Matt, you owe me a new code. My code the screen has vanished. It's just vanished, and that's okay. I was sharing with you the phenomena of being in the playground and watching the kids. And I realized that other dads were watching the kids the way I watch the kid, which is I never take my eye off those kids, ever. I barely blink. And I also am not one of those dads that gets on the playground equipment with them. I think that's tacky. I think once you're over the age of 28, you look bad in shorts. Men look bad in shorts. They look even worse when those shorts are climbing up playground equipment. It's not a good look. But the challenge is that men are not thanked for that. Women, there's all of these articles, women's magazines and women's books about how to do this and how women are underappreciated. No, that's not my experience. Men are underappreciated. There's nothing less appreciated than a good dad. One of my annoyances, general annoyance with the American press corps, is there really only two things that are irrefutable that President Trump is, in fact, an expert on. One of them is because he is a New York City builder and president. He knows how the World Trade Center came down. I would like him to share how the New York City Trade Center came down, because he would know if it was a controlled demolition, because he was a builder. Even if he hadn't looked in the files, he's a builder. He knew. But the other thing is, nobody argues, not even Hillary Clinton, that he's a great dad and a great grandfather. And around Father's Day, I'd like to hear his tips on how to be a great dad. When's a reporter going to ask him about being a dad? Walter Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight, 800-848-9222.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling, 77 WABC. This is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling and Michelle Gibson. Michelle Gibson is an expert, a researcher, an academic on alternative history. Alternative history. There are multiple parallel histories, but there are two big ones. The one that you and I were taught in public elementary schools and were taught all of our lives. And then there's the other history that you and I can see with our eyes, that we can hear with our ears, that we can look at and go, well, I can see that this is different than what I'm being told. And at the moment, I am fascinated by something Michelle Gibson has brought to my attention, which is, hey, look around at the downtowns of many cities in America, particularly in the North. There are buildings that were built in or founded in the 1850s, 1860s that don't seem to match the architecture of all of the buildings built since. These are buildings with 20-foot-high entranceways in the front. These are buildings with elaborate, complex, beautiful statuary, moldings, awnings, roofs that are like, well, how come we don't build like that today? Why aren't we building like that now? And wait, they told us these were built in 1880? Well, in 1880, those buildings were surrounded by dirt roads, and the construction crews came to work on horse-drawn carriages or just horses. How the heck did those guys build those? And Michelle Gibson has done a tremendous amount of research into all of this. And she's also an expert on my favorite topic, which is a country that has disappeared. Yes, an entire country, half the size of China, with outposts around the world called Tartaria. And, Michelle, you pick it up any point there that you want, anything you'd like to share with us on the things that I just mentioned.
Yes, thank you for that intro and the information. And there's just so many directions to go in, because the bottom line is what we're taught in school and what's all around us literally doesn't match, like you're saying. And it's in the big cities and it's in the small towns. Courthouses, libraries, Carnegie libraries. It doesn't matter where you are, not only in North America, but around the world. The kind of design is the same. And it's best known as Tartaria. And from what I've been able to determine, Tartaria was originally like China, Russia, Japan, Korea, that part of the world. And there were different empires around the earth with an R sound in them, like Barbaria. You know, we hear of barbarian being the opposite of civilized. But Barbaria was the name of Africa, North Africa. And you can find that R sound, Armenia, Arkansas, Arizona. Places all over the world have an R sound. And so I think that civilization was worldwide. I think Atlantis sank recently. What we're told happened thousands of years ago. This was the same civilization, empires within empire that weren't fighting against each other, but were co-creating this beautiful civilization. And we're still living in these buildings today and working and, you know, writing their infrastructure, like subways and streetcars and trains, though it's nothing like it was up until something happened that wiped this civilization off the face of the earth that we have not been taught about. And we've been given a version of history that's watered down, sanitized, doesn't include any of this. We hear about suffering and war and disease and all these horrible things that have happened. But this civilization that we're talking about was nothing like that. It was beautiful. It was harmonious. And it was connected by the ley lines and the energy grid that was powered by free energy. And you see this in the beautiful spires of cathedrals and any building, this period of time. And in many cases, the spires have been taken down, and they used to have a purpose on this grid. There's footage of airships, and you can see giant airships docking like on top of the Empire State Building in New York. Just one example. There's a lot. And we lost airships in the narrative with the Hindenburg. Too dangerous. Can't go that way. But it would seem that airships were part of this civilization. And there are bird's eye view maps online that you can find of cities and towns, let's say in the United States, and you'll see them from above, what you would see if you were in a plane, but they're from the 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, like you said. This information is missing from collective awareness and is thankfully starting to come back. My life pulled me in that direction, but it seems like this is a time when a lot of people are starting to do their own research and starting to look into this and putting a lot of good information out, especially on YouTube and other platforms, to get this back into the public eye so the public can become more aware of what we're talking about.
Michelle Gibson, an expert on alternative history. Michelle, who put an end to it? Who conspired to put an end to this glorious age of human history? And by the way, I've always thought that electrical connection, the wireless connection, house to house to house, I've always thought that's what they call lightning rods. Those weren't lightning rods. Mm-hmm. Those were ways for those homes to connect to an energy grid, because they stopped building homes with lightning rods, but there's no end to lightning. Therefore, we should still all have lightning rods, but we don't. Only the homes that were built before about 1900 have lightning rods. Must have been used for something else.
And there's other things that fall in that category. I'll answer your question to the best of my ability in just a moment about who, but even fireplaces. Fireplaces would appear to have had a very different purpose than putting logs on andirons and lighting them, because it's so many homes at that period of time, and a lot of them were occupied by elite people of the day, had these beautiful fireplaces with tiles and andirons that look like they should be in an art museum. You know, we're told they were, in our narrative, people needed that for warmth and used logs to accomplish that. So there's different aspects of this free energy grid and the architecture, how buildings were designed and so forth to facilitate this transfer of energy. It's a very deep topic. But in my opinion, something happened relatively recently, far more recently than we can imagine. I think it involved a time manipulation, and I think it allowed a dark force to come into the earth and incarnated in human form in many cases. I'm sure we're dealing with non-physical darkness as well, but physical darkness look like us, sound like us, but don't act like us. And I think they are the biggest names, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts, the Morgans. They were the captains of industry that brought about this industrial world that we know of, the only thing we know about, because they turned the components of this energy grid, the iron, the copper, the coal, they turned that into the fuel that they needed when this energy grid was taken down, until they could get it up and running to the best of their ability. So like streetcars and things like that, which would have functioned with the free energy. They first got them going with horses and mules, and then they figured out how to get it electrified in the 1880s. So 1850s, we got horses pulling streetcars. 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, we're starting to get electrified streetcar systems. And then within the next 20, 30, 40 years, they took these electric streetcars away when they had cars and buses to replace. The biggest names in our history that we all know, that we all learn about, that have everything named after them, are the ones that were behind at least the physical aspect of what happened here.
How do we find you on YouTube?
You can find me at Michelle Gibson 8946.
Michelle Gibson 8946, expert on alternative history, always brings us fascinating information and makes me just sit back and be quiet and think. Wow. Michelle Gibson, thank you for being on Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network. 800-848-9222. I know this has been earworming you, and I will play it again.
Sterling every damn night. Every damn night. We got 3 hours of Sterling waiting for you. Every damn night. Ooh. Every damn night. It's the world's greatest show. It's true. Sterling every damn night. Shuba every damn night. Every damn night. Whatever your shape, sex, or creed, Walter's got just what you need. Every damn night. Shuba every damn night. Sterling every damn night.
Red Apple Audio Networks with Christine in Manhattan. Welcome to the biggest all-night show in American radio.
Hi.
Hi.
I was listening to something you were saying before about the vigilance
Thank
of
God
men.
you were listening. Thank God somebody was listening, Christine. Thank God. Yes, please go ahead. I will not interrupt you again now that you've established your creds.
Well, anyway, the vigilance of men watching children. I noticed my husband, I always thought he was a fuss budget. He was always doing this and that and lifting something, opening the window, turning on the stove, telling me to stand back from that, blah, 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 blah. Then another time I was in a bar with a married couple, and they were having an argument, and she was telling her husband, "You're always poking your nose into my business," and that. What I realized is that these men are not being fuss budgets. They're not poking their nose. They are being protective. And I brought it up, and I said to the woman, it dawned on me, I said, your husband isn't being a fuss budget and a control freak. He's trying to protect you. And the husband didn't realize it either. He, my God, you're right. They had like an epiphany. Today I was coming home with a shopping cart and going into my building. A man came up behind me, held open the door. I went to a coffee shop. A guy comes along, buys me a coffee, buys me a whole pound of coffee, brings it out and gives it to me. As older I get, the more I see men being protective. They have an instinct. And that's what I'm observing. And a lot of people don't realize it. They think he's being fussy or something, and even he thinks that. But when you look at it, they're constantly protecting.
We can't help it. As long as we had the right mom, we can't help it. I appreciate you noticing it, Christine. Therefore, I must ask you 2 additional questions. About which neighborhood in Manhattan do you live?
I live in the East Village, which is a unique neighborhood, if you're aware.
Have you lived there all your life or a long time?
No, I've lived here a long time, yes. I was born in New York City. I've lived in Europe for many years. I've been in Morocco, Spain, France, all over the place. But I wasn't aware of this protective trait of men.
Oh, yes. And where do you get your pizza?
On the corner.
Exactly. There's a New York answer. You bet. That's the truest answer I could ever have tonight. Christine, I am so flattered that you listen. I thank you for listening on WABC, and I thank you for calling. 800-848-9222. That's the right answer. The right answer, if you're a New Yorker, is the nearest pizza is where I get my pizza because it's all the best pizza in the world. Eugene and Maryland, welcome to Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Eugene, it's spectacular that you're here.
Thank you, sir. It's spectacular to be here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and you have a good phone, and you have behaved so far.
Excellent. I'm watching my daughter's dog since she's in Honduras, and I told your call screener I was going to talk about illegal aliens. It doesn't have to go in that direction. You have too many topics, like watching the baby.
Well, watching the baby, am I right about that? Am I right about watching the baby?
You're right about that, but a lot of women, like my stepdaughter, who is actually She looks up to me now since her mother died.
How old is she?
She's 26.
So she needs your credit cards.
Hold on. Her mother left her rich, and my daughter with her.
Oh my God.
My daughter with her is 17. And in the beginning, she said, "I want all the rights, and my mother doesn't want anything to do with you. I haven't seen you in 10 years." And she was the original woke woman. She just wanted younger men. I was an older man. I gave her the baby. And then I had to disappear because she was too toxic and actually dangerous. If somebody wants to actually physically kill you with a weapon, then you need to get away. So I did. Now, behind the caveat is my stepdaughter is she's a good woman. Her mother left her with many houses, and she can't find somebody in Washington D.C. that'll take care of her because they want to use her. And it's a difficult situation. I want to protect her. She wants me to open the door all the time when other women, like I have 2 lesbian friends, they don't want you opening the door for them. They're too proud for that.
No, they're too. Eugene, they're not too proud. They're too angry. They can't accept that you could do anything as well or even close to as well as they can. No, Eugene, and I thank you very much for the call. Thank you for the call at 800-848-9222. Walter Sterling, 22 past the hour, Red Apple Audio Networks.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Red Apple Audio Networks, Walter Sterling, Another Side of Midnight, and it begs the question, how many sides of midnight are there? But I digress. Michael Harrison is the publisher, owner of Talkers magazine, talkers.com. Now, let me explain what that is. In the radio industry, there are talk show hosts like me who are obsessed with themselves. And this is a publication that lets them read about themselves and the latest updates on the activities of the industry. But the good news for you is that your interest in talk radio is obvious. Is an existentialist, an expert on all the things that we really care about, the universe, dimensions, Bigfoot, UFOs, UAPs. I don't know what UAP stands for. Dimensional aberrations and time adjustments and visual.
Wow.
I know. And virtual
reality. You're giving me credit for things that I hardly even know what they mean. You know what's really funny, Walter? When you introduced me, when you started that lovely introduction, thank you, by the way, you said Another Side of Midnight, and then you said, how many sides of midnight are there?
Yeah.
And exactly one fraction of a second before you said that, in my mind, in the caverns of my mind, I thought the same exact thing. How many sides of midnight are there? And then you said, how many sides of midnight?
It is my ability. It is my ability to plug into the zeitgeist of the moment that has made me an effective, I did not say great, but an effective talk show host.
Well, you know how they say there's a glitch in the matrix?
There is.
You've heard that expression.
But there is.
And that it happens all the time.
Yes.
And you know, it's like we're living in a movie that we saw it once before, and you see things that, you know, there's a director at work here. What's causing all this? But it comes down to, are there such a thing, or is there such a thing as coincidence? And I guess the glitch in the matrix idea that we're living in some type of a simulation, some type of a virtual reality, if you will, that is not what we think it is, and that it's contrived. It's either by God or some strange advanced alien teenager playing a video game in his garage. But there's something that just ain't kosher about the whole thing. And I find that to be pretty amazing. Do you notice these things happening when you go through your day, that something will, the old thing, you think of a person and they call you, or you're listening to the radio and you're thinking of a song and boom, the song comes on?
Yes. Throughout my life, I dreaded the week before Thanksgiving, because the week before Thanksgiving is either when the very best news of my year will arrive or the very worst news of my year will arrive, and they are all unannounced, but it is that week. That is my killer week, good or bad. But also, from the time before COVID, the year before COVID till today, I believe we went through a time shift, that the perception of time changed dramatically. And it could have been because of the isolation brought on by COVID, or it could have been coincidental. But I believe that our perception of time has shifted. My ability, maybe your ability to say, okay, well, what day is this? What month is this? What year is this? Has changed. It used to be very good. Now it is not so good. I feel, is this fall? Is this spring? I have to think about these things. And I don't have any other mental issues I'm aware of other than being a host. Yes, but I believe this has changed. And then I go online, and then I read articles about how thousands of people have felt the same shift in time.
It's very possible. I tell you, what you're saying resonates with me. I too have found my perception of time in terms of knowing what time it is, having an idea how long something is, how short something is, how quickly the week goes. All of a sudden it's Thursday, and you say, wait a second, it was Monday. Where did Tuesday and Wednesday go? Or sometimes not even knowing on Wednesday. I hate to admit this. I'm still getting along, but sometimes I don't know what day it is.
Exactly.
and it's in some ways it's embarrassing to admit. In other ways, it's a fascinating topic because we might actually be plugged into something very real. We don't understand at all what time is. Time is a mystery that, to use a cliche that's very popular, it's hard to wrap your brain around time and its relationship with space. But this whole thing about the Matrix and virtual reality and, what is real. As a student of media, and I think you'll find this fascinating because you've been a student of media and we both know each other since we were students, it seems the goal of media, meaning professional media, microphones, record players, telephones, television, headphones, the role of media has been slowly but surely to recreate reality, which we now call virtual reality. And we're just on the verge of that, where the brain operates as a computer enhancement machine. Whatever the latest form of media that we are experiencing seems to be better than anything we could possibly imagine. It's like you mentioned, I think last week on your show, something about they used to mix records in the studio so that they could be heard optimally on a small little radio, on a transistor radio. Right. And when we used to listen to those little transistor radios, it sounded like a symphony. It sounded like it filled the space. And then you listen to it now, and oh my gosh, it's horrible. Black and white movies were very normal. I thought there was a dimension of reality that was in black and white. And now, of course, kids who are not used to it, they can't even watch black and white television or movies. It doesn't feel right to them. And do you remember when hi-fi first came along?
Yes.
How real it sounded totally real. And then stereo, that sounded real. Quadraphonic didn't work because we don't have four ears. You don't need to have four speakers to make it real. But headphones, listening to Dark Side of the Moon, which should be called Far Side of the Moon, people used to listen in headphones and enhance themselves with chemicals that might not have been legal at the time. I have come to the conclusion that we're eventually going to reach a point where the fake reality is more real than the real reality. And none of us are going to ever want to come out of our cocoons. That's probably why we don't run into any civilizations out there. The Fermi paradox that I talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Well, what's interesting, go ahead.
Yeah, they don't want to go anywhere.
The interesting thing about virtual reality, the putting your that mask on your face is that it is not popular. It has not been embraced. It is a fringe group of people that are able to use it or enjoy it. There was a great belief that this would be the new technology, the new amusement, the how you spend your time. Instead, for too many people, it caused them to walk around the room and break lamps.
Yeah, because it's a faulty technology. It's like when we had 8-tracks and we thought they were the coolest thing, when a long song would stop in the middle. It would stop in the middle because it didn't fit the casing, and then you had to go find a new place on the 8-track where your song picked up, if it even did. It was a faulty technology. But the faultiness is having to wear the damn headphones and the eye visor and all of that. But if they were able to have something plugged directly into your brain, where it went right into the olfactory lobe and you could smell, or it went into the optical lobe and you could see, or the auditory nerve and in the brain, and you could hear as if it were real, but even more real than your bad eyes can bring in, more real than your worn out tongue could taste, or your shaky old ears can pick up. And it was simply inserting a chip in your brain or taking a pill and not walking around with a visor that makes you nauseated because it's not quite accurate. I think people would turn to that in a second.
I don't think people are going to allow chips to be put in their brains. And the reason I don't think that's going to work is, I know this will sound strange, because of the video and the photos of the self-driving cars going up on the curbs and going over the cliffs. And wait, it's the same company? It's the same inventor? I think there's a problem right there. I think the problem's right there. Well, wait a minute. You couldn't, the car can't park itself. Why am I going to put something in my brain?
In other words, you don't trust technology. You don't trust it.
No, I do. I have a 14-speed blender. But when you go beyond that, I think it always has to be done on a case-by-case basis. Remember, the first time, this is true, the Cadillac Sedan DeVille was the first car that had cruise control. A 1962 Sedan DeVille had cruise control. Well, the problem was that it was electromechanical. And the mechanical part, it was a dial, a physical dial. And, gee, sometimes it got stuck, and it got stuck at 80, and it took a couple of years for that to come out again. But once they got it right, then it was embraced. And I think that's true of technology in general. Once they get it right, but there's no proof that it's right yet.
No. And the very, very leading edge of any technology is not usually right away. So it depends on where you are. What do they call it? Early adapters, late adapters, or adopters and adapters. And I still haven't gotten that one straight.
It's all right.
You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. It's an SAT problem. It's all right. You didn't do well on the SAT, would be my guess. What were your SAT scores, by the way?
I don't remember, but I remember that they were just good enough for me to be able to get into college.
No, tell them which college, because it has a great program.
Oh, Hofstra. I went to Hofstra.
You went to Hofstra, which in my opinion there are 2 or 3 great audio media programs in America, and that's absolutely one of them. They do a spectacular radio job. God bless them for believing in radio. I know of other schools that could possibly be at Syracuse that actually believe there's no interest from students in being in radio, just no interest, and therefore.
Now if we're talking media, you're pressing a button.
Yeah, but let me finish. Let me finish. Stop. Let me finish. At Syracuse, they have a TRF curriculum, television, radio, film. Today, there is not one radio course in that curriculum.
Oh.
And you're on the board. Tell us about the Hofstra board.
Oh, well, I'm on the Dean's Advisory Board in the Communication Department at Hofstra. I have been there for years. And one of the conversations we have is, what do young people going into media for a career and going to college for, what do they need to know? What do they need? Do they need to learn radio? Is radio going to be around, or what is radio? I mean, these are great discussions. Fortunately, because my love for radio is both emotional and practical. I think radio is important, and we could talk for hours about that. We won't. But there's some people who believe radio is, over. And then you come to the discussion, is radio an aesthetic, or is radio actually a practical tool that we will continue to use, or is it an art form, or is it a hurricane lamp? What is it?
Yeah,
but that's an issue that we deal with. That's an issue that we talk about.
Well, I'm on the Dean's Advisory Board at the Newhouse School, and I started I started sitting in those meetings saying, where's the R? What do you mean television, radio, film? Where the hell is the R? Probably a good idea to have an R in the television, radio, film. And they actually believed that there was no interest among the students in a radio curriculum. And I said, well, then there's no interest in students in earning money. And they go, what? What are you talking about? I said, do you understand the highest paid on-air talent, radio or TV or film, is a radio star? And you understand that the highest paid programmer is not the guy who's programming the Discovery Channel or NBC. It is the person programming Sirius. And that I promise you, in any given city, any local city, I bet you anything, the highest paid account executive, salesperson, is a radio salesperson, not the next star television person who's making $45,800.
Well, do you think that radio is suffering? Because the stats prove that radio still is viable on just about every level, number of listeners, number of outlets, money, all of that. Do you think that radio suffers from a psychological problem that maybe I call it screenus envy?
No, here's what it suffers. No, it's way too falutin. Here's what it is. It's much simpler. Radio is so successful that it is ubiquitous. You get in your car, you turn on the radio. You walk into a retail store, the radio is on in the background. You go to work, the radio is on. Radio is everywhere. It's ubiquitous and therefore invisible and therefore never top of nine, never front and center. That's what it is. It's overwhelming success and ease of free distribution there's no such thing as internet free distribution. You got to buy $1,000 computer. You got to waste $100 a month for internet, and you have to get software that makes it work. And then you got to ask the 14-year-old how to get rid of buffering now.
It's hard to find a radio too in the stores. I mean, I wish
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane? Good luck finding a radio set. Good luck finding a radio. Hey, listen. So this is Michael Harrison. I am grateful for the time and the thoughts that you have shared today. It's talkers.com. Go there, subscribe, sign up, free, not sort of free, not free for 3 months. No, it's just free.
Yeah, no catches.
And Michael created it, and now we've learned he's on the Dean's Advisory Board at Hofstra.
And now we've learned that you better tell the folks in Syracuse what they need to do fast.
Well, as you can see how much impact I have. Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling and Michael Harrison. All right, you and I are talking about the interesting role that men have today, which is that we're not thanked. We provide significant services, but we are not thanked. And that is a conspiracy against men.
Men will keep doing for other people what's appreciated. They need to be appreciated a lot. So much of what stops happening is because we expect them to do it, and so we think they don't deserve appreciation for doing something they just should do, so we don't appreciate them.
Wow. You stop saying thank you.
We stop being thank you. Honey, thank you. Thanks for doing that for me. And this is where we take so many things personally that aren't personal. It's like single focus, we take personally. He's ignoring me. No, he's ignoring everything but what he's doing, and he didn't have to do that. His brain did it for him. But so there's all these things we take personally, and then there's the things we don't take personally. That what they do for us, they do for us.
And then there's that Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell, who's been told by Democrats to not run for governor. Wow. He's been told to not run for governor of California. He got involved in a honeypot situation. Men of a certain type, the guys who were on the AV crew, in the debating club, never the guys on the football team. These were the nerds. He was a nerd in high school. If you were a nerd in high school, you are vulnerable to being trapped in a honeypot. And then you wonder about the men who were trapped by Jeffrey Epstein. Well, how were they trapped? These were gazillionaires. I'll tell you how they were trapped. It was very interesting. You look at the people who were trapped by Epstein, and you're like, well, those are the richest guys in the world. They could have anything they wanted. They could have any women that they wanted, and that's true. But the ticket into Epstein's world was they had to believe that he was as rich and powerful as they were, and that he was already in the club. They had to believe he was in the club. And I will share with you the way men in New York City believe you're in the club. Where do you live? Where do you live? Because in real estate, that is the key to acceptance in New York City. How good is your real estate? That tells everybody else in New York City who you are, what you are, how successful you are. He had a deed that said he lived in the biggest house in Manhattan. Epstein didn't need any further vetting to other New York guys. Other New York guys would look at that house and think, he's ahead of me. He's achieved everything I want to achieve. And they don't check. They didn't check the background. They didn't talk to other people. No, he's a financier, and he lives in the biggest house in New York City. He's at the top of the food chain. By the way, they always say that's the biggest house in New York City. I don't think that's true. I think the biggest house in New York City is at 20th and Irving Place. It's a block house, and it's two huge homes that were put together. I think that's true. That's how they were accepted that's how Epstein got all those guys in there, is with his house. It was with his house. You can't say, in New York, you can't say I'm rich or I'm powerful. No, you got to be able to show it in real estate. But if you're a woman and you want to trap a man, they know their stuff. The women who do this know their stuff. They know that every man has a couple key points, which is a man is looking for a woman who really gets him. She really gets me. And she has a great sense of humor. And, oh, no, she doesn't need me. She earns her own money. She's earning a lot of money. She's very successful. Best to meet a guy in first class with a first-class seat. If you're a woman, you have a first-class seat. That's the first way to trap a guy in first class. And be able to mention a few things that only successful guys would know and respect their success. It's pretty easy. And that's what this Swalwell guy, Eric Swalwell guy. We'll talk more about that in just seconds with Jake Novak with Walter Sterling on Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Networks.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Jake Novak in just seconds, but first, George, welcome to Another Side of Midnight at 800-848-9222. Men need to be thanked, George.
Well, I agree with you, Walter, but you got to remember, in a controlled environment, you have no control. Some people just take for granted when you do things good for them. It's just like they feel like you're supposed to do it for them, and they usually are the individuals. It could be a man or a woman who really, really ever do anything for anybody or go out of their way for anybody. It all has to be them. Everything centers around them. And Walter, your show is fabulous. Where the heck is TJ?
I don't know. George, are you there? Yeah, George. I don't know. I don't know. He doesn't check in with me. He didn't call me ahead of time. I don't know, George, but I'm glad you like my show, and I appreciate it. And I hope you listen tomorrow night, and I hope you listen to all the shows on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Thanks very much for the call, George. There is Jake Novak. Jake Novak is a cut-through, cutting-edge news style of radio newsman. And what I have told people about you, Jake, and I want this to go to your head, is it has been a long time since we've had a bigger-than-life personality newsman who has journalistic instincts and opinions. Welcome, Jake. Hi.
Hi, thank you. You know, you were talking about men needing to be thanked. We don't thank them enough. It reminds me of Billy Crystal's comment when The Lord of the Rings, the third movie, won all the Oscars. And every single speech was about how great the people of New Zealand were for the production. And he said, you know, that people are now moving to New Zealand just so they can be thanked. So maybe men need to move to New Zealand so we can get thanked. That's all I can think.
Yeah, we're not thanked. And we do a lot of things because it's assumed that we're supposed to be doing it. Meanwhile, gosh help you if your wife or significant other is not thanked every 10, 15 minutes for emptying the dishwasher.
Yeah, you know, this reminds me of, and I don't know, has her career ended? Remember Dr. Laura Schlesinger? I don't know if she's still on the radio or not, but she wrote a book about this, about how, like, you know, you don't have to be subservient to your husband all the time, but, like, women get really clueless about their men going off to work and coming home, even if the women are working also. She had a pretty good take on that. She blew her career because she wanted to say the N-word, obviously not in anger. She wanted to make a point about it, and there's a graveyard for people who decide to do that, along with Michael Richards, who played Kramer on Seinfeld. The moral of the story is make your point about that in private if you want to make a point about saying a word.
Dr. Laura is on live every day on Sirius Satellite Radio.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so her career is still alive, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
Her career is still alive, and if you listen to her, you'll notice something as a radio geek. You'll go, she never says you're on Sirius Satellite Radio. She never says Sirius Satellite Radio. And finally, I asked somebody who would know, I say, are they white labeling it so that one day she can take it off of Sirius? One day it has a future beyond Sirius and they don't have to edit endlessly? And they said, yes.
Wow.
I know. Now, this clown, this guy who was running for governor. Yeah. Now, what did he do?
You know, we have a really interesting story developing here. Now, some people might think this story is just interesting on the surface, and it is. Eric Swalwell, who's currently a congressman in California, has been one of the absolutely meanest and roughest critics of President Trump since 2016.
Yes.
Always on CNN, always on MS Now, smirking and just going with every single nasty attack on Donald Trump. So we learned, and there had been some rumblings about this, but there's rumblings about every male in Congress this way. This really got traction a few days ago. Women, a large number of women accusing him of sexual harassment, one now accusing him of even rape. These are staffers. These are people who worked in the campaign, people who worked on his staff. And all of that is a very interesting story. Then you've got this latest wrinkle in it, and it's a big one, is that now the big Democrats, starting with the ones in his state, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, have publicly come out and denounced Swalwell. They're not going to support him anymore. They're rescinding their endorsements of him in the gubernatorial election. He is the leading Democrat among many Democrats running for governor of California. And all of that's really interesting on the surface. But, Walter, I got to live up to your intro for me. To me, this is a real chicken or the egg kind of situation. Is this because of these accusations that were there, or is it because he was not doing well in the polls? And the Democrats, and we've known for 3-4 weeks that the DNC, the National Democrat Party, which has more control over each member of this party than I think I've ever seen a national party have. They have control over everyone from dog catcher on up to their leading presidential candidates. There's very little diversion now among these people. It's kind of scary because selfish self-interest is the key to success in politics and in business. But anyway, they've needed to get this Democrat field whittled down. There's so many Democrats running that in the primaries, it's two Republicans, the primary polls, it's two Republicans leading. And Walter, California has what they call a jungle primary. If two Republicans come in 1 and 2, first and second in this primary, then it'll be two Republicans in the general election in November, and no Democrat will have a chance. So they've got to get this number of Democrats down. And I thought Swalwell was the safest one because he was the one polling the highest. But I guess the Democrats have decided this guy isn't getting over the hump. He's not even getting close to 20% in the polls. So we might as well slay him first and then see where the numbers fall after that. Be interesting to see if other Democrats pick up his numbers. This Schiff and Pelosi have abandoned him. There's no way he can continue. No way.
If the slightest tinge of scandal comes about as a Democrat, there's no way that the party will back him. They can't afford it today. They can't afford the Republicans to have that leverage over him. If the word rape is around his neck, if that proves to even be maybe true, not only will he not win, he must drop out and preferably go work at a private law firm and never be heard from again. Whenever he's in Congress demanding testimony from a Republican official type, he is the angriest, meanest guy. Yeah. He's the angriest guy. It isn't just a healthy debate of ideas or a debate of ideas. He wraps it in anger that's palpable and bizarre.
Yeah, and I think, again, so there's a lot of good riddance to this guy, especially among Trump supporters and even a lot of moderates who just don't want to see these kind of grandstanders out there all the time. But I have to tell you something, Walter. I think that the real story here is, you talked about the hint of scandal, but is it the Democrats who amplified this? Again, that's my chicken or the egg question. Did the Democrats decide to amplify and use their resources to promote this scandal? Now, I reported on this program, the NewsHour Weekend Edition, or the program that's going to come on after yours, after Other Side of Midnight, several weeks ago, that the Democrats had put aside a ton of money to try to get some of these other Democrats in the race for governor to drop out. So instead of maybe paying off some of these lower polling Democrats, did they instead get the money together, work with the law firm to get these accusers platformed, work really hard with them? And is that where this all came from? This is a legitimate question because, again, this wasn't just my reporting. I just brought it to a national audience. Only a few people knew about this in California. I just reported to the national audience that the Democrats were pooling money to try to get people out of the race. And I assumed, like everyone else, that meant payoffs. Hey, we'll give you this job or here's this donation. Maybe that money was used to drum up this entire accusation regime that's now started against Swalwell. Doesn't mean it's not all true. It could all be all true. But when you've got the best attorneys and the best PR people, the best flacks, as they say, working with your accusers, that didn't happen. For example, remember there was that woman who accused Joe Biden of assaulting her when he was first running for president in 2020. That didn't go anywhere other than the pro-Trump social media sites. That went nowhere because it didn't have the money behind it. It didn't have the PR folks behind it. If those groups had been behind it, some of them especially Democrat-leaning, Biden would have been toast.
Can you imagine the meeting of Democrats saying, okay, now how do we plot to get rid of another Democrat and get this Democrat off of the election campaign? Those meetings must be so terrifying and so dark and so evil. All right, we've got the top 5 stories coming up at 5 o'clock with the great Jake Novak coming up on the Red Apple Audio Networks.